Hello all, welcome to Psychology. I'm really disappointed not to be meeting you properly today, but hopefully I'll see you all soon. I'll just introduce myself. So I'm Miss May and I'll be your teacher for most of your psychology lessons. I'm really easy to get on with. I've got an open door policy. Come and see me, email me anytime. But I also have expectations and I expect you all to complete the work that I set for you and engage in every lesson. I'm going to voice over some of the slides, so make sure you check for the symbol and listen to the recordings. Enjoy! Okay, so first of all then, before you get started, I want you to just have a little think about what is psychology, okay? What does it mean to you? What does psychology look like? I want you to have a little think, maybe write down some ideas, and in the next recording, I'll reveal the most common definition for what psychology is, but I'd really like you to have a think first. Okay, so there are many definitions of psychology, really, and it's kind of what you make it. So any of the kind of key points thrown together can define psychology. However, the most common and most agreed on throughout the psychologists is that psychology is the study of mind, brain, body, and behaviour. So well done if you got that right. Okay, so I'm just going to talk you through some of the topics that we're going to look at in year one and year two. So first of all, the kind of one of the main topics that glues psychology together is the approaches. So this is the way that we can explain behaviour and why people behave the way they do. The aim of a psychologist is to explain behaviour. So psychologists will look at someone's behaviour and pull from all these different approaches that we've got to kind of explain that. And we'll look at each approach individually, and then we'll look at how we can link them all together to explain behaviour better rather than just using one on its own. There's lots of strengths and weaknesses for each of the different approaches, and as I said before, they work best at explaining behaviour alongside each other. So, for example, behaviourism. This is about learning through rewards and punishment. So, for example, you might have heard of when children behave well, they get given a sticker, so a reward chart. And the aim of this is to encourage them to repeat that behaviour because they're getting rewarded for it. Now, one of the key things about behaviourism is that there is no kind of thought process going on. It's all automatic responses. However, then you look at cognitive, and this is all about thinking. Okay, it's what actually goes on in our minds, and it's about those thinking processes. So they are quite different compared to each other, which is why they work quite well alongside each other. So we've got memory, so we'll be looking at the way that memory works, okay? So the different types of memories that we have. So if you have a think about it, we don't just remember something that's just happened, we remember things from a long time ago. So we've got your short-term memory, your long-term memory. We're looking at all different types of memory, okay? We've got your models for memory. So the models are something that explains how memory might work. So it's theories of how memory works. We'll be looking at forgetting as well, and we'll also then be looking at eyewitness testimony. Now, this is really important because eyewitness testimony is relied upon heavily in courts, with eyewitnesses giving their statements. A lot of that is used for evidence. However, there's a lot of research that shows that eyewitness memory is not always correct. Our memories can trick us. So it's a really good, interesting topic. And there's quite a lot of research in that one. So attachment is one of my favourite topics. So basically what we look at with this is the way that attachments are formed between infants and their caregivers. And we look at what is an attachment, how do they form, why do they form, different types of attachment, and we look at the impact that the attachment formed between a child and their caregiver, the impact that that has on their whole future of relationships and psychological functioning. So there's lots of theories about how that can impact a child's future. I really do enjoy this topic, and I hope you do too. Social influence is another one of my favourites. Unfortunately, this will probably be taught by a different teacher. But social influence is all about the way an individual is influenced by other people and how this happens. So, for example, why did the Nazis torture and kill all of those Jews? Okay, so you look into that. We look at things like how did the suffragettes win the rights for women? Why do we do what others are doing, even though we may or may not agree with it? So it's all about our social sort of behaviour and how we're influenced by other people in lots of different ways. So we'll also be looking at biopsychology. Now this is a combination of biology and psychology, and we look at the nervous system and the endocrine system. We look at the brain, neurotransmitters, neurons, the way that the brain sends messages to the body, and how those things are connected to our behaviours. Okay, so psychopathology, we're looking at different mental health disorders. So we're looking at depression, phobias, obsessive compulsive disorder, and we use the different approaches that we learned before that, and we use those approaches to explain how somebody might get these mental health illnesses, and sort of how they're treated and all sorts of things related to those disorders. Okay, now research methods is a really critical part of psychology. It runs through every single topic that we look at. So psychology is a science, and what's huge about it is the way that behaviour is studied. And I'm going to talk a bit more about it in a minute, because it's so heavy. You need to be very prepared for what sorts of things we're going to look at here. So we'll kind of be looking at methods, design of experiments, ethical issues. We'll be looking at data analysis. Now that's the key part, because once we've got our data, it means nothing unless we analyse it. So we'll be using sort of statistical frequencies, etc., to analyse that data to then give us some meaning to that data to be able to explain behaviours. And we'll be looking at participants as well. This is amongst many other things. Okay, so in year 2, we'll start looking at issues and debates. So there are lots of different issues amongst psychology and psychological research, as there are also lots of debates. Okay, so just for an example, there's a big debate known as free will versus determinism. So what we mean by this is our behaviour completely free of choice? Are we making those decisions freely, or is our behaviour determined in some way? So for example, when I spoke to you before about behaviourism, where we might repeat a behaviour because it's been rewarded, this is a very deterministic view, because we aren't actually making that decision. We are doing that behaviour because we've been rewarded, and it's not something that we're thinking about. So it's deterministic, it's determined behaviour. There are other approaches we look at that are very more a free will approach, where they say it's all our choice, and none of it is determined. And then there's another debate. So we've got the nature or nurture debate. Now this is basically, is our behaviour determined by our genetics? So what we're born with? Are our personalities already there, ready to kind of develop? Or is our behaviour due to our environment? So what goes on around us, is that what shapes us? The way that we're raised, the things that happen in our lives, the things that we learn. Okay, so that's a huge debate, and we don't just look at these in year two, we do link them through the whole 2 years, but in year two we have a specific sort of topic dedicated to them. So we then have our optional topics, okay? So we'll be looking at aggression, schizophrenia, and relationships, okay? So relationships, why do they form? How do they form? What keeps them going? Schizophrenia, so we look at the underlying sort of causes for schizophrenia. We look at treatment. Again, we look at different approaches for schizophrenia. And the same with aggression. We look at aggressive behavior. We look at the biological underlying reasons for aggression. We look at the environmental reasons, so the social things. Again, sort of treatments, etc. And again, more research methods. As I said before, research methods runs heavily throughout psychological research. Okay, so there'll be 3 exam papers at the end of the 2 years, okay? So paper 1 will be all of your year 1 stuff. Paper 2 will be some of your year 1 stuff, but also your research methods. And then paper 3 is all of your year 2 stuff. And research methods is linked and weaved throughout every single one, okay? Now they're all of equal percentage of marks and they're all 2 hours long. Now we will be using past papers throughout the course to familiarise you with them. So don't be worried, you will know exactly what to expect from the papers. We'll be looking at exam skills, so we'll look at the different command words, we'll look at the different types of questions you might be asked, the amount of marks, rough timings on how much you should spend on each question. So hopefully we'll get you exam ready, okay, by the end of the 2 years. Okay, now this recording is really important because I do have quite a lot just to make clear to you all. I mean, I want you to love psychology. It's a fantastic subject. Obviously, I'm biased, but it is. But you need to be aware that it isn't just the easy option. Now, I know lots of people are under the impression that, oh, I'll take psychology because it's the easy subject. And lots of people have done that and they've learned very quickly that they were very wrong. So things that you will be doing, okay, so you'll be using things like t-tests through statistical analysis of data. So as I said before, it's really important for us to analyse the data that is gathered within psychological research. So to do that, you'll be using things like t-tests, which is testing for a difference between variables, okay? So when you're looking at something in an experiment, does A have an effect on B? Using something like a t-test will show us if there is a difference there. So analysing data is a big part of psychological research because the data gathered, as I said before, is useless on its own. Okay, so that means that a basic maths confidence is essential. Okay, so you must have some confidence with maths to take this subject. There's also lots of writing and essay construction. It is a extended writing based subject. So you will be expected to complete a piece of extended writing in almost every class. So this could be anywhere from a short mark a short question 4-mark answer to longer 8-mark questions. And alongside this, you will be writing an essay for homework every 1 to 2 weeks. And these are 16 marks. And we will be doing a key terms test every fortnight. Okay, so there is quite a lot of writing and maths involved, okay? Also, psychology is heavily biological. So I had somebody 1 year who switched from doing a science because it was too sciencey to doing psychology? Well, they soon found that actually psychology is very science-based and very heavily biological, because you will learn the structure of the brain, how it influences behaviour. We'll talk about the nervous system, neurons, synaptic transmission, which is basically the way our brain sends messages. So therefore, if you know that you are dedicated and willing to put effort in, then psychology is for you. I love psychology, and I'm sure that you will too, because amongst the stats and the biology and the essay writing is a subject that teaches you about not only yourself, but others and the world around you. So I'm really keen, and I really hope you all feel like it's a subject for you. Okay, you're also expected to do independent research. So you need to do about sort of 10 hours of independent research. And this can include your homework. It can include reading the research methods section of the textbook, and writing summaries, notes, because as I said before, research methods is really important. And I'm going to give you an independent research booklet. So this will contain different tasks that you can apply to any of the topics that we study, and the tasks are at different levels. So it goes from sort of solidifying the knowledge that you've gained to analysing and building on the knowledge that you have. Now it has been shown that students who do this independent research do get better grades, so it's definitely worth keeping it up. And I will be checking on your progress, okay? Okay, so now you know what to expect from psychology. Let's do something fun. So, what I want you to do is take a blank piece of paper and a pen or pencil and draw a pig. Doesn't Try not to make it look like the one on the screen. Just do whatever comes naturally, okay? Just draw yourself a pig. Don't move on until you've done it, okay? Don't look at the next slide. Just draw a pig. Okay, so on the next slide are some things that you can use to analyse your pig drawing. So it's just a bit of fun, really. And remember that this is not fact, okay? It's just a bit of fun. So don't look at it and go, oh my gosh, that must mean that I am this or I am that. It's just a bit of fun. See if it does match up to your personality. Once you've done that, see if you can get someone else in your household to draw a pig and have a go at analysing them, and then see how close you were to their personality. See if they agree with the things that you say. Enjoy! Okay, so now we're going to do a quiz. Now, obviously, usually we would do this in class and we do it in groups, and it would be a bit more fun. However, obviously, we can't do that. So, I'd still like you to complete the quiz. You can use textbooks, phones, internet, anything to find the answers if you don't already know it. Once you finish the quiz, send me an email and I can email you the answers, okay? Have fun with it, don't stress about it. And that's the end of this introduction to psychology, and I look forward to seeing you all in the new year.